Now that the dust has settled a bit after the turbulent launch of Stalker 2, I'd like to explore with you in this video what the developers have to say about the launch, the issues that have arisen since, and the community's growing calls for changes and fixes. From this we can piece together a small roadmap for Stalker 2. How will the game evolve in the near future and over the long term? That's exactly what we'll be diving into together right now. The launch of Stalker 2 can truly only be described as a success. The game has already sold over 1 million copies within just the first 2 days, and that doesn't even include the many players who are joining the experience via Game Pass. On release day, there were 113,000 concurrent players on Steam alone, and that number was surpassed again on the very next day. All of this undeniably points to a hugely successful launch, but it's impossible to ignore or downplay the significant issues that many players are experiencing. The game has its share of challenges, and for that reason, GSC Game World released an important and detailed statement on launch day. Dear Stalkers, it feels utterly surreal to say that, but Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl is out now. That's totally wild. So was the whole development story. Despite all the odds, it's here, our biggest game, our own story, our love letter to Ukraine. After more than 15 years, the doors to the zone are open once again. This is a very important, very exciting and very memorable day for all of us. Stalker 2 is meaningful in its own way for each fan. We hope that those who have been familiar with the universe for a long time will immediately feel at home and recognize that very same Stalker. For all newcomers, we hope you'll immerse yourself in the magical, alien and all-powerful zone and, feeling its unique emotions, will stay with us for a long time. This is a project of endless love and passion from the entire team. We genuinely believe that this is felt throughout. You'll feel it in the handcrafted world, you'll feel it in the laboratory and in the poppy fields, or during the first mission, or intense battle with a bloodsucker, or the stylish reload of your new gun, or first seeing Pripyat under the moonlight. There are so many things in the game that we are incredibly proud of. And now it gets really interesting for the future of the game. Nevertheless, Stalker 2 is a massive game. We understand that in such a game there may still be rough edges. We literally haven't released anything of this scale before. We're absolutely committed to being here, monitoring your feedback and quickly fixing any issues that need our attention. In the first days after release, we'll be working with hotfixes, rolling them out as precisely as possible, but as frequently as we can. Then we'll switch to larger updates that include constant improvements. There will also be free in-game content. We'll share its roadmap later in December. We have big plans for the Stalker universe. In a way, today is both a return and the beginning of a grand new journey. We're blessed to have you before, we're blessed to have you now. The zone belongs to you. Have fun. With love, GSC Game World team. In this statement, they not only expressed their gratitude, but also reaffirmed their commitment for the coming months and years to make Stalker 2 the sequel to the trilogy that we all expected. Let me know in the comments how the launch went for you. How are things looking in terms of performance and bugs on your end? Personally, I encountered a few bugs, but nothing game-breaking. Mostly funny little things like a character walking in the wrong direction or sitting backward on a bench. However, the performance has been pretty borderline for me, even though my hardware is at the higher end of the spectrum. I'd really love to hear how things are running for you, so feel free to share your experiences in the comments below. Now I'd say it's time to take a closer look at the biggest concerns and wishes from the community. What feedback have you shared with the devs on Discord, and how have they responded to it? Let's dive in. One user asked, how are bugs and glitches being handled and what does developer transparency look like? The response to this question aligns closely with their earlier statement. They are fully committed to engaging with the community's feedback and fixing issues as quickly as possible. There will be short-term hotfixes rolled out promptly, followed by longer-term, larger updates. This reiterates and reinforces what was said in the statement. But I guess now it's a matter of waiting to see how quickly they can actually deliver these hotfixes. Another question I saw repeatedly on Discord was whether there would be dead zone settings for controllers, as many consider this an urgent necessity. The answer is that they are currently investigating the issue. I think releasing a shooter in 2024 without this setting is a bit questionable, but hopefully this will be addressed as soon as possible. Now we come to a very interesting question raised by a user who noticed on SteamDB that two new branches named test_crypto and test_crypto_hard were recently added. Considering GSC Game World's past interest in integrating NFTs into Stalker 2, this user was curious whether such functionality is planned for the game. The answer was very clear. There will be no crypto or NFT functionality in Stalker 2. This is a particularly reassuring response, especially given that GSC Game World briefly flirted with the idea of NFTs during the early stages of Stalker 2's development before receiving overwhelming negative feedback from the community. The next question revolves around the length of the day-night cycle. A user wanted to know if the current duration is intentional or if any changes are planned for the near future. The response was that the current length is indeed intentional. However, it seems most players find it too short, night falls too quickly and daytime passes just as fast. You can see it in the number of negative reactions. They even say, make it longer. What do you think? Does the day-night cycle in Stalker 2 feel too fast for you? Would you prefer longer days and nights? Personally, I think the best solution would be to add a slider so players can adjust it to their preference. Why not give players full control? But before we move on to the next set of questions, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and are interested in more Stalker content. From news to tips, tricks and guides, there's a lot more coming in the weeks and months ahead. Another user wanted to know how to unlock the DLC items, the items from the Ultimate or Deluxe Edition. The answer is that you'll find these items in the zone at the journalist's stashes. So if you're also wondering where to get your items, here's what you need to do. First, you need to play through the prologue and then complete 1 or 2 main missions. After that, you'll need to retrieve an item from your stash. This item will mark the locations of the journalist stashes on your PDA, and that's how you can collect all the Deluxe and Ultimate Edition items. Another user asked about the functionality of the Deluxe and Ultimate Edition items. Are these items something you can permanently lose? And what happens if you do? Additionally, they wanted clarification on how these items work in multiplayer and single player and what it means to transfer them into multiplayer. The answer is that these items can break if you don't repair them occasionally. As for transferring them into multiplayer, it simply means that you'll also be able to use them in multiplayer mode. If you're wondering how they differ from the standard in-game weapons, I've noticed 2 key differences. First, they have unique skins obviously, and second, they are slightly lighter than the original weapons in the game. Another user came forward with 2 questions. First, they noticed that the veteran difficulty, the hardest setting, feels exceptionally challenging and wondered if there are plans to tweak it in the future, potentially making it a bit easier to manage. Secondly, they mentioned an issue with the melee attack key, V, which currently cannot be remapped, raising concerns for players who prefer customized controls. Community manager Mollet found the situation rather amusing because just a minute earlier they had answered another user who felt that the veteran difficulty was too easy. This of course highlights why Heart of Chernobyl offers 3 different difficulty levels to provide options that cater to a wide range of players. What difficulty level are you playing on? And how do you feel about it? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. On a related topic, another user brought up the bloodsuckers and asked if their health will be nerfed, as they currently feel like absolute bullet sponges. They suggested a potential fix: increase the damage these mutants deal while reducing their health to make encounters feel more balanced. This seems to be a frequent concern among the community, and GSC Game World has acknowledged it. They are actively gathering feedback to rebalance the health of mutants, including the bloodsuckers. For those who don't want to wait for official updates and feel that some enemies are too bullet spongy or the game is too difficult, there are already solutions available. You can check out Nexus mods, where mods have been created to adjust the health of enemies like poltergeists and bloodsuckers in particular. I've included a link to these mods in the video description so you can tweak the game to better suit your preferences. The next question is another one that's being asked frequently. When will it be possible to remap the flashlight to a different key? Currently, this option isn't available in the settings. GSC Game World is aware of this issue and is already working on a fix. For PC players, the tutorial mentions that the flashlight can be activated with the L key. However, if you didn't know, you can also use the middle mouse button to turn it on. Another user raised a related concern, asking if the flashlight could be buffed. Nighttime is incredibly dark, and the flashlight only illuminates about 3 meters ahead, leaving everything beyond that pitch black. This intense darkness not only makes navigating at night difficult, but also complicates stealth, as you often can't see enemies at all. Darkness and nighttime visibility are recurring themes in community feedback. GC Game World has acknowledged these concerns, emphasizing that they are taking the feedback seriously and actively working to find a solution that satisfies everyone. Personally, I started playing the game with the default brightness setting gamma set to 40%. Over time I've increased it to 55%, which makes the nights a bit more manageable without completely losing the game's atmosphere. If you're struggling with visibility at night, adjusting the gamma might help until an official fix is implemented. Another user asked when GeForce Now support would be added or functional. The response was, within the next 24 hours. After doing some further research, I can confirm that Stalker 2 is now available on GeForce Now. However, there are some caveats. Currently, only the Steam version is supported, and controller support doesn't seem to be working yet. So if you were planning to play via GeForce Now, keep in mind that the Game Pass version won't work, and if you prefer to play with a controller, you might want to hold off for now. Another user expressed frustration with how their inventory gets completely reorganized every time they sell something to a trader. Items don't stay in the positions they've placed them, which understandably causes annoyance. Community manager Mollet acknowledged this feedback and assured the user that it would be passed on to the development team. Additionally, a different user complained about the automatic leaning around corners. They would prefer to control this action manually. I completely agree. It can be quite frustrating when you're trying to peek through a narrow gap and the character keeps leaning left or right automatically. However, it seems this question was misunderstood, as the response simply explained that leaning left and right is bound to the Z and C key. Judging by the reactions to this post, it's clear many users share the frustration with the current leaning system and would prefer a more manual approach. Another player wanted to know if loot respawns, and the answer is simple: no, it does not. On day one of the first questions asked was about the release of modding tools and where they could be accessed if they weren't available at launch. The response was that official modding tools were not planned for release on day one and would come a little later. Another excellent question in my opinion was whether it would be possible to increase the number of markers you can place on the map. Currently the limit is 10, which many players feel is far too few for such a massive open world. I couldn't agree more. What can you do with just 10 markers in such a large game? The developers responded with, "Thank you for your feedback, we will definitely discuss your suggestion." They also noted this was the first time such feedback had been raised, but encouraged other players to react to the post if they supported the idea. Judging by the responses, this player is far from alone in wanting more map markers. Of course, a major concern for the community is performance, and the next set of questions focuses entirely on this issue. One question asked was whether a patch addressing performance issues would be coming soon. The response: yes, we are already working on the first hotfix. Another question followed: is GSC Game World actively optimizing the PC version of the game? The answer was the same: yes, we are aware of the issues and we are already working on the first hotfix. Another user mentioned that while they are enjoying the game overall, the optimization could only be described as abysmal, especially in areas with more than just a few stalkers, such as the main hubs. They asked what is the team doing to address the widespread performance issues. The response, as expected, was: we are aware of the optimization issues that some users are experiencing and we're working on them. This means we'll need to wait for the first hotfix and likely a series of subsequent updates for these problems to be gradually resolved. It's a process that may take time. This situation feels reminiscent of Cyberpunk 2077, which required many hotfixes and patches to address similar issues. Over time, those fixes brought incremental improvements until the game reached a reasonably polished state. But now we arrive at what is perhaps the most significant issue troubling the Stalker community, particularly die-hard fans of the series: A-Life 2.0. The AI system, which was a hallmark of Stalker 1, created countless unforgettable emergent moments, is either entirely absent in Stalker 2 or so buggy that it is effectively non-functional. For longtime fans, this is a major concern. The dynamic, unscripted AI was the core of what made Stalker unique, delivering gameplay experiences that felt alive and unpredictable. It's this system that kept the original games relevant and replayable for years, even decades. And this leads directly to the next question. Hello, some aspects of the A-Life system don't seem to be functioning properly. For example, enemies spawn too close to the player, or patrols disappear when they move slightly out of the player's range. Are these issues being investigated? Mollet responded by acknowledging that he's seen many questions regarding problems with the A-Life system. He confirmed that there are indeed some known issues with A-Life 2.0, which are already on the team's radar and actively being worked on. Mollet emphasized that the team understands how critical the system is for creating an immersive atmosphere in the zone and assured players that they're doing their best to resolve the problems. And honestly, we can only hope they succeed. This system is what creates truly unparalleled moments in the game and gives players the sense of being in a living, breathing world. A properly functioning A-Life system doesn't just enhance gameplay, it defines the Stalker experience. Without it, the world of Stalker 2 risks feeling static and less immersive, missing the dynamic unpredictability that has always been the hallmark of the series. For many fans, this is the key feature that sets Stalker apart, and its proper implementation is essential for the game's long-term success. Another user commented, "We know you're working hard on all fronts, but now that all the issues with A-Life have come to light and it's clear that it doesn't work like it did in the previous games, I'd like to know what we can expect once A-Life 2.0 is fixed." Unfortunately, the response to this wasn't particularly satisfying. The developer said, "We are making noticeable improvements. A-Life will feel better and we're working very hard to fix it." It's a very vague statement that could mean almost anything. I think the community was hoping for more concrete details here. Something specific about what these improvements will look like or how the system might evolve. What about you? How do you feel about the immersion in the zone? Does Stalker 2 feel like a true Stalker game to you, or does it come across as more of a modern, story-driven shooter? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective. And that's it for this video. I hope you found it informative and enjoyable. Have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you in the next one.